Thank you everyone for joining us. It is evening here on the East Coast of Massachusetts, depending on where you're joining. I appreciate you coming and listening in to hear more about Andover Summer and the opportunities that we offer. My name is Stephanie Driscoll, and I am the Assistant Director and Dean of Admission for Phillips Academy Summer Session. And I am joined tonight by my co-host, Tarun, who is calling us from New Jersey. And he was part of our summer program this past year. Tarun is currently an 8th grader. And so he took our high school prep course last year through summer, through the online program. And so we're going to run through each of the different components of Andover Summer. I may not, along the presentation, address everybody's questions. So please feel free to use the chat during the presentation. And then I will address as many questions as possible at the end. And then if there's other questions that you have that I'm not able to answer tonight for whatever reason, you all have my email address. So you're welcome to reach out to me via email, and I will certainly get back to you as soon as possible with answers to those questions. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I just want to make sure that everyone can see this. Tarun, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see? Okay, great. Terrific. Thank you so much. Poor Tarun has heard this quite a few times, right? All right. So I'm just going to jump in here and talk to you about Andover Summer and the different programs that we offer here. And if anybody does have a question, feel free to unmute yourselves and jump in. I have no problem with that. But here we go. So the Andover Summer program has been around for almost 80 years. And the first summer that we were not able to run our program was the summer of 2020. So just simply the Department of Public Health in the town of Andover, as well as the state of Massachusetts, we just were not able to welcome students to campus. And so we did have to transfer our program over to that online program, which worked very successfully, in which Tarun is going to share some of his experience with us a little bit later on the call. And we feel that this was a really phenomenal program that sort of grew out of a necessity. And so now Andover Summer encompasses both the on-campus program as well as our summer program. And both of those programs are 5 weeks in length. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about how each of those programs work. So here's just a picture of, I'm going to put it into presentation mode for all of you. Just a group of, this looks like our upper school students, a group of them hanging out likely in between classes or perhaps after dinner. And definitely some wonderful connections are made between students when they spend these 5 weeks on campus with us here at Phillips Academy. So I'm first going to jump into talking about the on-campus program and give you some information about how this works. And then a lot of this does translate over to our summer program as well. But I'm going to give you some more intimate details about how the on-campus program works. So we are divided into 3 different institutes with our on-campus program. And with that, it includes a program called the upper school. When I refer to upper school, I'm talking about students that would be rising 9th through 12th graders. So those would be students that are currently in the 8th through 11th grades. And as part of our upper school, we offer a day and boarding program. So if you happen to live within driving distance of campus and you'd like to take part in this program but not board, then we have the option for you to do that. As I mentioned, this on-campus day and boarding program are all 5 weeks in length. And we've really found that this is sort of the best way for our program to operate. It's a long enough amount of time that really allows students to connect with their faculty and fellow students and in and out of the classroom. But it's also allows students to be able to have a good amount of time to give them a break during the summer from doing schoolwork. So we think the 5-week time frame works really well. Within our upper school, we have about 40 possible course options for students, and those range from your typical math and science classes, and then we also offer art and performing arts courses as well as philosophy. And then we have some really interesting classes that kind of don't fall within any of those categories, but that are really interesting for students looking to explore something outside of sort of those core curriculum classes that they would typically take in a school setting during the year. So lots of wonderful opportunities. You can find a list of all of the course offerings for the summer of 2021 on the Andover Summer website. If any of you are having problems finding that, I am happy to send the link to you directly to our upper school course catalog at some point this week for you. All students within the upper school are required to take 2 classes, whether they're a part of our day or boarding. The day students have the option to just enroll in 1 course, but all boarding students do take 2 classes. And then additionally, we offer a few other optional courses for an additional charge. One of those is called Essential Study Skills. And then we also offer SAT and ACT prep through the Princeton Review. And then we have also, and I'm going to get into a little bit more, a college counseling program that students can enroll in as well. Our lower school institute is geared toward rising 7th and 8th graders, and that's the program that Tarun took part in last year. So these are students that are currently in grades 6 and 7. That again is also offered as a day and boarding program. One of the major differences between our upper and lower school, aside from the fact that the students are of course a different age, is that our lower school institute students take 1 class that they take over the 5 weeks, is an interdisciplinary course. So it covers a variety of different disciplines and is taught by multiple teachers. So as an example, the high school prep course that Tarun took this past summer, that's taught by both a math and an ELA teacher. And then we also offer courses like the physics of flight, CSI, anatomy of a crime, forests, mountains, and beaches. And so as you can see, there's a theme to these classes, and they include a variety of different disciplines as part of that. So that is how the Lower School Institute works. With our Lower School Institute for this summer, we have 8 different options. We call them individually the institutes. And so again, we have our course catalog online available for you on our website if you'd like to take a peek at the course offerings for this summer on campus. And lastly is our English Language Learners Institute. This is offered, again, it's the upper school age group, so it's for rising 9th through 12th graders. These are really students looking to come to the US and really work on their English language proficiency. So students in this group take their classes together. There are about 8 courses within the English Language Learners Institute, and they're all focused on really helping students to gain that English language proficiency. Again, those are all listed in our upper school course catalog. Just going to give you an idea of sort of the breakdown of what it looks like during our summer on campus. As you can see, the majority of our time spent here at Andover Summer is, of course, going to be in those academic classes. Every morning, students are engaged in afternoon academic classes, whether they're part of the upper school, the ELL, or the lower school institute. So students are engaged in coursework in the mornings. And then we offer afternoon activities for students that every student takes part in. So it's part of their day. They take the academic classes in the morning, and then they're engaging in some of those optional courses if they choose that, or we also offer afternoon activities. We have a tremendous amount of offerings within those afternoon activities, ranging from flag football, tennis, yoga, walking, running, so many different things for students to choose. This is not a competitive environment, so students that take part in these, for some of them, it might be the first time they've ever tried this particular sport or athletic thing. And we also offer a variety of clubs on campus. So for students who might be really interested in taking part in clubs during the school year, we have the opportunity for them to continue doing that here during the summer. We also have a very robust college counseling program. I am actually the college counselor during the summer. And so I work with students in a one-to-one basis to assist them with resume writing, thinking about essay topics, just beginning to kind of think about how to form a college list. Each week, we invite various admissions representatives to campus to talk about an issue related to college admissions. And then in a typical summer, we would be making visits to campuses that we're able to get to within a drive. It looks like most of the schools will be closed for visitors, so we will be doing all of those visits virtually this summer. And then, of course, we have to make some time for fun. So this summer, especially with some COVID mitigation protocols, which I'm going to get into in a few minutes, we're going to be doing a lot of activities within the dorms. We will do our very best to have everything outside as much as possible, but we'll be doing things together as dorms, because that's going to be our learning sort of family pod for the summer. And then we're going to have a whole bunch of different student activities that we bring to campus this year, including movie nights, petting zoos, small scale carnivals that we might kind of be doing on campus with popcorn and things like that for our students to keep them happy and busy in the evenings and on the weekends. So lots to do on campus during the summer. This is a typical schedule. I know it can kind of appear overwhelming for someone who is not familiar with it, but I'm just going to kind of go through like a Tuesday, Thursday, Friday schedule. This is our upper school student calendar. So the lower school looks a little bit differently. And all of you can access the lower school schedule by hopping on to the course catalogs that I mentioned earlier that are available on our website. So as you can see, on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, our upper school students are up for breakfast from 7 to 9. Their period 1 class, which everyone is required to take, goes from 8:30 to 10. And then everyone takes a period 2 class. It can either happen at 10:15 or it can be from 12:30 to 2. So if you're not enrolled in a period 2A class and you're in a period 2B, you would have some free time in the morning to get outside, go for a walk, maybe catch up on some work that you need to finish. And then you have another free period from 11:45 to 12:30. Lunch happens from 11 to 2. We have college counseling 5 days of the week from 2:10 to 3:10. And then our afternoon activities that I mentioned, the flag football, the soccer, the tennis, things like that, that happens for 2 hours from 3:30 to 5:30. Dinner, we have an evening period where students might be taking some of those optional courses I mentioned. And then every evening, our upper school students have 2 hours of mandatory study hours, the final dorm sign in at 9:30, and then students must be in their rooms by 10:30 in the evening. So that's a typical day for an upper school student. The lower school looks very similar, but we move the time back a little bit since those students are on the younger side. I also just want to touch base quickly on what housing looks like. We have a variety of different styles of housing here at Andover Summer. The majority of the residence halls that we'll be using house about 30 to 35 students, and those are the ones that we'll be using this summer. Because of COVID mitigation, we will need to be putting students in single rooms. That doesn't mean that there won't be students nearby, but everybody will have their own individual bedroom this summer. So typically students would have a roommate that they're sharing a bedroom with. This summer, they will have a room all to themselves, which in some ways might be really nice. All of our residence halls are staffed during the summer by professional house counselors. These are serving in loco parentis, so in place of parent. They are in this role to ensure your child's safety and comfort, to make sure that they're getting their work done, to make sure that they're taking care of themselves, that they're eating properly, and also to make sure that they're, not feeling homesick or experiencing other issues that they might have from being away from home for the first time. So many of our house counselors have returned each summer. Some of them are full-time house counselors during the school year. So they're all very well trained in sort of dealing with students in this capacity. They also will be planning a lot of activities for our students this summer, since we are planning that we will need to be campus bound due to COVID. And so there'll be a lot of stuff that will be happening, as I mentioned, within those family dorm units that they will be doing together both during the week and on the weekends. So we talked a little about the academics, the activities that take place in the afternoon. Obviously, your sons and daughters will be getting, amazing academic enrichment while they're here, making great connections with students and faculty. But some of the things that I think students pick up on here that maybe is unexpected for them is these great time management skills. As you can see, there is some free time during their day. And so it's really figuring out, when do I do my work? How late do I stay up to kind of get that done? How do I make sure I'm managing my time? This might be the first time for some of them that they're away and that they're doing this on their own. So it really helps to kind of teach them how to work on some of that time management. They're also going to learn a tremendous amount of academic independence. Even though we have those house counselors that are making sure that they're doing their work and we have those mandatory study hours, a lot of this is really going to be the first time that these kids are taking on the chore of kind of doing the academics without a parent right there to kind of keep on top of them. So students are learning a tremendous amount of academic independence. Personal independence, we expect our students to help clean up in common areas of the residence halls. We expect them to keep their room neat and tidy, to make sure that they're changing sheets and doing laundry. And so for students, this might be the first time that they're having that experience. We do have a laundry service, so students may not need to do their own laundry, but they need to at least make sure that it gets off to the laundry service and gets cleaned. And so those are some skills that they'll be learning while they're away from home this summer. And of course, most importantly, the ability to make new friends. So this is going to be a place where they're going to be meeting students from all kinds of different backgrounds, religions, ethnicities. And so it's a wonderful place for students to branch out and maybe make friends with somebody that they never ever thought they would meet in their life. And this kind of sums up an experience the last time that we were on campus together in the summer of 2019. I really think this kind of captures the feeling that students have after they leave here, that they know they're going to get a great academic experience, but the impact that it had on their confidence, their work ethic, and the happiness that it provided was an unexpected extra that came along with the experience. And I think a lot of families and students leave here feeling that they ended up getting a lot more than they ever expected. So we feel great that we're able to provide that for students. We're going to jump onto eSummer, and I'm going to have Tarun jump in here and talk about his experience, because I think the best person to kind of tell you about what it's like to take part in our eSummer program is somebody who has actually done so. So I'm going to have Tarun talk about this personalized learning plan, which is really what sets our eSummer online program apart from essentially the typical school year, and what your sons and daughters have been doing all year long, and what we're all kind of feeling a little burnt out from. I want to talk about how the eSummer program at Andover Summer is really very different from what they've been engaged in during the school year. So Tarun, I'm going to have you kind of jump in and talk about your experience.
So I think the personalized learning plan is like one of the best aspects of eSummer, because like unlike regular school, it's like it helps students like achieve a lot more and learn a lot faster, because what their teachers are like, what assignments they're doing are like individualized and based on like what the student is like struggling on. So it's a lot easier to advance faster and learn a lot more in that 5-week time period that you have during eSummer.
So the idea behind our eSummer program is that rather than students having a prescribed set of curriculum that they need to accomplish, we're really taking the time with the faculty and the student to customize a set of learning goals that Tarun is speaking about. We customize a set of learning goals based on some initial assessments of where the student is at. And the assessments that we give are something that we use here on the Phillips Academy campus regularly, and have actually been utilized on independent schools all throughout the Northeast. So it's it's an excellent assessment tool that we use for both our math and our English language placement. And so students identify one-to-one with their faculty areas of growth that they might need, or areas that they have a strength in and that they might just want to fine tune a little bit more. Tarun, did you have a particular area that you identified with the high school prep faculty this summer?
So like as in,
Did you have particular areas that you were looking to work on a little bit
oh,
more in depth?
yeah. So like in the beginning of summer, I was like not great at essay writing. Like I'm more of a math person. But like now I'm able to like write a lot better. Because like I did like 5 or so essays, one per week. And that's like my teachers giving me like individualized feedback. So unlike normal school, like September to June, I'm able to advance a lot faster because I know the individual aspects of my essay that I need to improve on, and like things that I'm doing good.
That's great. So I'm just going to kind of talk about the different components. And I should also mention too that the eSummer program operates very much the same as our on-campus program does, where it's a 5-week session, and we divide into the upper school. Remember, it's that grades rising 9th through 12th graders, the lower school rising 7th and 8th graders, and then our ELL Institute. So all of those different institutes are offered during our eSummer program. So the weekly components of eSummer are the one-to-one learning conference, which happens every week with your faculty member. There is a synchronous full group course meeting. And I realize that we've got families coming from all across the world in different time zones. And so the faculty make an effort to offer this at multiple times so that all the students can join live. But if they are not able to, if you're traveling that week or you're doing something that falls during the synchronous meeting, these meetings are always recorded so students can view them at their convenience. There are always every week synchronous office hours, and depending on the course, faculty will also assign some small group workshops with individuals to do some sort of more, I don't want to say hands-on because everybody is working remotely, but they really are working together as a group, and they will assign them activities to do during the week. And then, of course, as part of our e-summer program, there will be those independent learning activities that they will do. And that's the time where students are really working to hone in on those skills that they have identified that they would like to focus on more. So as Tarun indicated, that essay writing, this would be a time with your independent learning activities that you'd be working on some of that. And those activities are going to be very different depending on the student and the goals that they have identified with their teacher for the summer. Everyone at the end of the e-summer program does an exhibition of learning. And so everybody's exhibition is going to be different because the goals that each student have identified are going to be different among everyone. And so it really makes the program unique in that sense that you're really working to achieve those goals through that particular class. As you can see, and I think we heard Tarun kind of voice this, is that the personalization, the connection they feel with peers. I think students and teachers were actually pretty surprised at the connections they could make through an online platform. The fact that they got to choose what they learned rather than just being told what to do. And I think you'll find that that is the big difference between what your students have been doing during the school year and what they'll find with the e-summer program here at Andover Summer. So of course, we asked the question, which one is right for you? Are you interested in coming to the on-campus? Are you interested in the day? Are you interested in our e-summer program? So here's a breakdown of the differences between the two programs. Of course, the on-summer on campus, we have more offerings. As you can see, 8 institutes for lower school versus 3 for e-summer. You guys can read that on your own. The enrollment for our on-campus program this summer is probably going to be about 400 students. As I mentioned, everybody's going to be housed in single rooms this year. We won't be having roommates with shared bedrooms. And so we are taking a smaller number of students for our on-campus program. E-summer, we're expecting about the 300 again this year. Global representation is excellent in both of them. So, you know, we found that even with the e-summer program, we still had a tremendous number of states within the United States as well as countries represented throughout the world. There is a different approach to teaching with the on-campus and e-summer. The pedagogical design for our on-campus program, as you can see, is that traditional academic enrichment with the hands-on learning versus e-summer, where we're doing a more of that personalized mastery-based philosophy. You guys can see what alumni rave about and the differences between on-campus and e-summer. Of course, one of the big things is going to be our food. We do have fantastic food here at Andover Summer. And unfortunately, when you're part of the e-summer program, you will not be able to be enjoying the food that we have here on campus. This is some differences in cost. As you can see, our e-summer program is significantly less expensive than our on-campus for obvious reasons. This gives you an overview of the time commitment from students. Tarun is happy to answer questions about what kind of a workload he had this summer. The on-campus program includes a variety of student activities, the college counseling program. We have a secondary school admissions program for our lower school students where we do presentations each week from Andover admissions folks. And then we do an independent school fair as well. Those will all be done virtually. The weekend activities and trips this year, at this point in time, we are planning that everything will be happening on campus. We hope we will be able to lessen some of the restrictions that we currently have for the on-campus program. But as of this point in time, in April, we are looking at bringing everything onto campus. Additional courses, as I mentioned, the Princeton Review, the ACT, SAT, or SSAT for lower school students, the essential study skills, and we also offer music lessons. I did not mention that earlier. And then our e-summer program, we do not offer additional courses. And then of course, if you're part of our on-campus program, you have access to all of our wonderful facilities here, which they are spectacular. And then if you're part of the e-summer, you have access to our Oliver Wendell Holmes library collection online, as well as our technology help desk. Any questions from anyone at this point in time? I want to make sure if you have questions about anything in particular. So we're going to talk about what's going to happen in particular with this summer and COVID. So right now in the US, we are working towards vaccinations, but at the same time, we are still seeing quite a few cases nationally. And each of you is coming from different places around the world with different vaccination levels and different levels of COVID. So we are right now in this medium risk category, and we will need to be implementing COVID mitigation on campus this summer. These are some of the, I would say, highlights of our COVID mitigation plan. We have everything available on the Andover Summer website. If you visit on our website under the tab called Information for Admitted Students, Everyone can access that. You do not need to be an admitted student to look at it. That outlines for you all of the plans we have in place and all of the restrictions that we will have on campus for this summer. So some of the highlights from that are a staggered arrival throughout registration day. So families will be assigned an actual time to come register. It used to be just an open registration, but we cannot have hundreds of people congregating in one area. So obviously we'll be doing appointments for registration day, and only one family member will be allowed to help with move-in. Negative tests will be required for students within 72 hours upon arrival in Andover. So you will need to provide a negative test from either your home country, or if you're spending some time here for a few days, the test can be taken no more than 72 hours upon your arrival on campus. We are planning for up to a 10-day quarantine. So when students arrive on campus this summer, they will be quarantining by dorm. As I mentioned, the dorms are going to become a family unit. And once the 10-day quarantine is up, those students will be able to freely move about their residence halls without masks, as they would in a home situation. During the first 10 days, our courses will be offered in a virtual setting. Students will be able to take those from their residence hall. There will be limited movement on campus for the first 10 days. And all of that information, again, is available on the information for admitted students. Once we get through the 10-day quarantine, we'll be providing a regular testing protocol through pooled saliva testing on campus. We will be maintaining social distancing, personal protective equipment, and I've mentioned those residential and academic pods. At this point in time, we are under the assumption and under the understanding that we will have campus boundaries. So there will be no visitors after students register. That means no local families can come if you have a boarding student. And students cannot leave campus during the 5-week time frame. And as I mentioned here, the campus will be closed throughout the duration of summer session. So some things to think about as you plan for your summer this year. I'm going to briefly touch upon admissions, which is my specialty here. We do operate on a rolling admission, so first come, first serve programs and courses. We did start admitting students in December. I will say that our upper school program is very near capacity at this point. And so you want to, if you're planning to apply for the summer of 2021, try and get those applications in as soon as possible. Once we are full, we will not be able to admit any more students. It is a competitive application process. We're obviously seeking students with strong academic records. We want to make sure that they're going to be successful here during their time at Andover Summer. We are looking for students with strong self-advocacy skills. And of course, super important for us, especially this summer, is a commitment to being a positive member of our Andover Summer community. So the application components, some personal essays, essentially just what do you like to do in your free time? Tell us about your family. For the e-summer program, 1 letter of recommendation is required. For on campus, there are 2 letters of recommendation required. And then we do ask for a current transcript. Students and families can expect to receive decisions issued within 2 weeks of the completion. So even though you submit an application, if we're still waiting for recommendations to come in from teachers or from counselors, we cannot review your application until it is fully complete. And you can check the status of your application in your applicant portal, which you'll have once you sign up to register for Andover Summer. I've done a lot of talking, so I'm gonna stop sharing this and I'm going to go ahead and check the chat. And I see some questions in here. How many afternoon activities can someone in rising grades 7 and 8? So every student takes 1 afternoon activity for the duration of the summer. So they certainly have lots of things going on campus. We actually just had a meeting today with our student activities director, and we are going to have a ton of different activities for the students to do because we're not able to leave campus this summer. So we are going to have students engage in lots of different activities, but the one that they sign up for formally, they just sign up for 1. What happens during the evening class block? For the upper school students, it could be those optional classes I mentioned, the SAT, or if it's a 9th grader, potentially the SSAT class or an ACT course. The lower school students actually have a required evening class block that you'll see on their schedule a couple different times a week. So it varies between the upper and lower. For those students who are not engaged in a optional course from the upper school, that is an opportunity for them to either have some free time or to use it as an additional time to do some schoolwork. The lower school students take one interdisciplinary course for the 5-week session. So one course for the lower school, one academic course. But again, as I mentioned, in case you missed it earlier, it's an interdisciplinary course. And so it is coming from a variety of different areas. So it could potentially be a science and a math. It could be an English and a math, an English and a science. There are a lot of different options for the lower school. What levels of the courses as an advanced placement honors college prep? Okay, you'll see in our course catalog, primarily most of the students that are coming here are all sort of at the honors advanced placement level. And so we don't do a tremendous amount of leveling. We do leveling within our English language classes and with our math. And every student takes a placement test when they come to campus. Or if they're doing online, we do a placement test online. And so they'll be identified through that, and then we'll help you get placed in the appropriate course level once you're here. Sure. I'm sorry that I did not do this before. How did we identify any COVID cases during the regular semester? Yes. So we are doing twice weekly pooled testing. And if a student is identified as having COVID, having either an active case or maybe they're asymptomatic, that student is moved to an isolation dormitory on campus that is housed by a house counselor. And then we notify the parent, and they are expected to come within 24 hours to come get their son or daughter. From there, we identify close contacts of that student, and then those students are required to complete a 10-day quarantine. We have had less than 1% positive cases here on campus, and we have about 750 students on the Andover campus right now. So we are very successfully managing COVID. And that is the reason why we have to do this quarantine for the summer, is to ensure that any students who may have acquired COVID either before or during their travels, that we're not allowing students to engage together until we know that our campus is free of COVID. You do not need an SSAT score to attend Andover Summer. No, standardized tests are not required. We just need either a middle school or high school transcript with current grades from this year. Feel free to unmute yourselves too if you'd like to ask a question.
How many spots are available this year for the middle school program?
So as of today, we have about 110 students deposited, and we're looking to have the program be about 165. Okay. Again, we expect that we will have some melt over the next month, dependent upon international travel. A good number of our lower school students do come from international locations. Depending on the restrictions, some of those students may not be able to attend this summer. Mm-hmm. So, but right now that's where we're at with the lower school program.
Okay. How soon do you expect it to get filled?
It all depends. I will say that applications have definitely picked up. I think people are starting to feel like, hey, let's make plans for summer. I think people were a little bit hesitant earlier in the year, but we are seeing an increase in applications come in. So my best advice is just to do your best to get everything in as soon as you possibly can.
All right.
Could you mirror the same question for a rising ninth grader?
Yeah, so rising ninth graders would be part of our upper school program. I will say that our upper school program is very, very close to capacity. We will continue to admit students because, as I mentioned, we expect there will be some melt from those students. In a typical summer, we do not have melt. When students are admitted, they come, and that's that. But with COVID and with the restrictions internationally, we do expect that some of the students we have admitted may not be able to attend. So we will continue to admit and possibly put students on a wait list in the event that some of these international students are not able to come. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I think it's we're just late to the game because we were at a boarding school overseas with her and just didn't get focused on soon enough.
I think in a typical year, we probably wouldn't have space available at this point in time, but because of COVID and I think people kind of putting off plans for the summer and the fact that, as I mentioned, we expect that some of our international students may not be able to make it here, we will continue to admit students. Even if we become full, we'll continue to admit on a waiting list, and it's very likely we'll need to use that waiting list this year.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Do you allow day students to join activities? Absolutely. They need to opt into that. There's an additional cost for day students because it's optional whether or not they'd like to do that. So there's information about the website. about joining in on our afternoon activities, but we definitely encourage day students to join in on those afternoon activities for sure. I think it really helps to make the whole Andover summer experience. What do we do during the 10-day quarantine? Great question. We are envisioning operating it very much like a family. So, meals will be delivered to the dorms for the first 10 days. We'll not be eating. We're going to have tents set up throughout the summer for dining. But during those first 10 days, it's going to operate very much like a family. So the students are really going to get to know each other well, along with the house counselor that lives with them. We are planning for all kinds of activities, movie nights and game nights, and just playing some fun activities outside. We're on a 700-acre campus here, so we're going to do as much as we possibly can to keep the kids out at the fresh air. We do not, of course, our goal is to not have students sitting inside the dorm for 10 days. We will be a little bit limited on where we can go on campus, but we certainly can take advantage of all the beautiful areas we have on the campus during that 10-day quarantine. And we are in the process of making plans for what those activities specifically will look like. And there'll be a calendar that will be released to you probably in mid-June. We have a phenomenal student activity staff. So I have a lot of faith that they're going to plan some really fun activities for those kids during the first 10 days. Anyone else? Tarun, anything you want to add? Are you taking another class this summer?
Yeah, I'm probably going to be going to e-summer again.
Okay, great. Any ideas what you're interested in taking?
I'm not entirely sure at this moment, but I'm probably going to make the decision really soon.
Lots of choices for upper school, right?
Yeah.
What is the earliest time you can apply for Andover Summer? So the application is available in October, and then we start reading applications in mid-December. And certainly it's definitely a benefit to apply early because you will have first pick of classes and afternoon activities. So some classes do fill. Of course, the ones that are more popular tend to fill more quickly. And so it's certainly a benefit to get your application in early and have access to those first. Okay. Well, yeah, sure.
Just one question. What are some of the most popular classes available?
A lot of our creative writing classes are really popular. With lower school, I can tell you I have students like chomping at the bit right now to get into forests, mountains, and beaches, and physics of flight is a very popular one this summer. Upper school, I would say students are always really interested in taking the science classes and the math courses. But the creative writing, the expository writing classes that have a bunch of different focuses are always really popular as well. And then we have a course called Money, Society, and Economy, which I'm seeing is getting a lot of attention this year as well. So it's kind of dependent upon the year, but certainly the math and science courses, I feel like students really here, they want to engage, they want to kind of accelerate. And so those classes tend to fill pretty quickly. How do we sign up for clubs and what clubs are offered? So it will be determined when we start during the summer. So we don't have a list of clubs that we definitively have until the start. It really depends on what the faculty are interested in having during the summer. In the past, we've had like movie club, or we've had anime, or we've had an LGBTQ club. So tons and tons of different options for students. And we will notify the students when they get here. We'll have a little club fair where they can learn about all the different opportunities. And I'm assuming that that will be done virtually, but then the clubs will be able to meet once that 10-day quarantine period is up, the clubs will meet in person. And that's done in the afternoon during some of those free times that you see on the schedule. Okay. Well, I really appreciate everybody taking some time out of either your evening or your day or your afternoon, depending on where you're calling from. I hope that I have successfully answered some questions here. Again, you all have my email address. I am the one who sent out the invitation for the webinar this evening. So please feel free to email me with any additional questions. I will hang on the call for a few more minutes in case anybody would like to stick around and ask some more questions. And Tarun, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope you don't have too much homework to do. And again, thanks everybody for joining, and I hope you have found this useful this evening. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It was very useful.